Hey guys, hope you're doing okay. Hi Lisa. Hi William, I hope you're well. Not too cold actually. I'm not too bad, to be honest with you, at the moment. Before I went through the winter, it was a lot worse. But when was the coldest time for me? I suppose it was early January, end of January, something like that. But yeah, the weather's hopefully going to get a little bit better and it'll be a bit easier for me. I'm just going to let the numbers build up a little bit, and then I'll go into. In fact, I'll just start summarising everything as best as I can. I'm sorry if you've heard this before, but it's quite important if there's new people that are just listening to this. So my name is Gary Waterman. I was in the United Kingdom's police force for 18 years. I joined Kent Police in 2000 and lived in around the Medway Towns area for most of my life. So I lived in Walderslade. I lived in it was Walderslade. Then I moved to and actually lived in Erith near London for a while, not for long at all. And then I moved back to lived in Rochester for a big part of my life, a little bit of time in Maidstone. And then before I joined the police, I went and worked in, so I'm going off track a little bit here, but it's things that people might not know about me. I went and worked in Minehead at Butlins for 2 seasons before I joined the police. So I was a barman for 1 season, and then I was a bar supervisor for the next season. And that really sort of made me come out of my shell a little bit, because I was quite a shy person, I suppose, before I joined the police. So that sort of really helped me get a bit of confidence leaving home. Anyway, went back to Kent after Minehead, and I was a security officer for a while in a shopping centre in Maidstone. And that's where I started to sort of make the connections with the police and spoke to some police whilst I was at work there. And I ended up joining the police in 2000. Didn't think I'd even get in. And, it was really tough for the first year or two, to be honest with you, being somebody that was a little bit shy. Suddenly you're in this job where your confidence has got to come through in what you're doing, and it really developed to sort of confident and capable person, I suppose. Some world views on a lot of things, because of course you full things and you're suddenly thrown into this world which is completely different than what you're for. When I was in Kent, for example, would regularly go to suicides, people that have been hung or whatever, and you'd have to go and search the bodies, and you'd be the initial person going to those events, and for somebody that's never done that, and for somebody that's unconfident, it's you're really thrown in at the deep end. And I suppose one of the hardest parts of the jobs was telling people that their loved ones have passed away. That was, a really difficult part of the job. But it was a very varied job. 1 minute you'd be going to a death like that, and searching the body. And then you'd be going to a fight, or you'd be going to concern for welfare because somebody is threatening to harm themselves, or you go to a job where there's been criminal damage caused to property or something like that. So it's very, very varied job, which is one of the things I really liked about the job, because you're never going to get bored as long as you're working hard in the job. Anyway, I joined the police in Kent, worked from Maidstone predominantly for most of my time in Kent, far away from Maidstone, as a beat officer for a while. And then I transferred to Dorset Police in 2006. And initially I worked at Bournemouth, which was a very, very busy location and much, much smaller than the area I worked at in Maidstone. So the work was completely different. It was a busy nightlife town. There wasn't anywhere near as many sudden deaths we went to. And in 2010, I decided I wanted to work in Christchurch, which is about 7 or 8 miles away from Bournemouth. It still came under Dorset Police. So I moved there. Prior to that, I'd done my sergeant's exams, so I did part 1 and part 2 of my sergeant's, which meant I could be an acting sergeant for a group of response officers. So I was a frontline police officer and an acting sergeant, which meant I would literally every now and then supervise a group of maybe 7 to 10 police officers, and we would be responding to all of the calls that are coming in and dealing with them, etc. So anyway, I didn't take the third part of my sergeant's because I didn't want to. Basically, I thought, right, I'm going to just sit on these two parts that I've got, and I didn't want to leave the frontline policing element of this. And it was becoming quite evident that as soon as you go up the ranks, you start coming away from the frontline policing, so you're not dealing with the victims and, you know, the first sort of golden hour, if you like, of evidence gathering once you've attended a job. And the job was, you know, it's very, very challenging. You know, you would deal with a lot of the actual investigation of the minor element of the criminal network. So a lot of the stuff you'd have to do your own interviews for and find the evidence. Obviously, if it was a more serious crime, then they'd have specific departments. So you would gather that initial evidence at the scene, secure and preserve any forensic evidence, for example, and any witnesses, take statements, etc., and then it would be handed over to another department that would deal with some of the more serious elements of the the crimes that we would deal with. So yeah, really interesting job. Anyway, in 2018, I retired from the job voluntarily. Prior to that, I'd taken a career break for about 3.5 years, but I'd extended it a year at a time. And my wife and I went travelling in a little camper van, a little T4 camper van, and we went across Europe for a lot, and we just kept extending the career break. And then they refused to extend it. So I ended up going back in 2017, I believe, end of 2017, I think, with a view to maybe leaving permanently, because by travelling, I realised how little you really need to have an even better life. The simplicity of being in a small little van for me and parking up by a lake or up in the mountains in the Alps or whatever, it just made me realize how little you actually need to really enjoy life. So I was trying to sort of reassess my life at that point as to what I really wanted to do. Went back to the police for a while with a view to seeing what it was like after I'd been away. Theresa May had reduced the police numbers by 20,000 and loads of police stations had been closed. So it's very clear that the job was not what it used to be, and it became quite evident to me that we were being led to believe that we need to look for reasons not to investigate crimes rather than actually investigate them. Now, I didn't join the job to do that. I didn't join the job to, look for a reason not to help somebody. I wanted to do everything I could to help people as best as I could and prevent the crime. Well, now it's becoming quite evident why that is, because this whole system of crime they've got in place is a problem reaction system of crime, problem reaction solution to a criminal network they've got in place. So they need the problems to occur so that they can defraud the masses through the taxation system and other financial institutions. And unfortunately, the system they've got in place, which I'll come to actually, let me just go forward a little bit more, and I'll try and summarize. I'll try and keep it a bit more concise if I can, because I understand I'm talking a lot here. So anyway, I left the police anyway. In 2007, I was introduced to my wife, and I believe that was a staged introduction. I also believe there was a staged introduction to me buying a property at Exbourne Manor, which is where this whole investigation began for me, and this was in 2007. So I bought the property and was introduced to my wife, and we got together maybe 6 months later, because we were both in relationships at the time that we were introduced. And in 2009, I became a director for that company that had started in 2007. Okay, and that was Exbourne Manor Freehold Limited. And in 2021-22, we had a roofing project done on the building, and it was worth over £300,000. And as a director for the company, because of that roofing project and the managing agent suddenly not being able to be contacted, I wanted to view the bank documents for the company. So I started to ask questions. Can I see the bank? Can I see the bank accounts? I'm a director for the company. I'd like to see where the money's going, how it's being spent, etc., or words to that effect. Anyway, it was clear that they didn't want me to look at the bank documents, and I became a bit more insistent. And it was on the 8th of July 2022 that I approached Anthony Roberts, who was the acting chairman. Sorry, I'm just going to keep an eye on the comments. So I approached Anthony Roberts on the 8th of July and became quite insistent that I view the bank documents for the company. And he became angry at me, and I had to stop the conversation. And 2 days later, I thought, right, I'm going to arrange a meeting with him and Diana Betts. And looked like the other Gary. And I had a meeting in the flat of Diana Betts and said to Anthony Roberts, words to the effect of, I don't know what happened the other that upset you. He would apologise. He didn't. And I said to them, look, I need to view the bank documents for the company. I need to be able to view those bank documents. Otherwise, I'm going to go to the other directors, or words to that effect. Anyway, 3 days later, Anthony Roberts resigned as a director. So I received an email. So at that point, I knew there was something going on. And at that time, I just thought maybe it's a little bit of money missing, etc. So I effectively became the acting chairman for the company at that point. There was 25 shareholders trying to find out what had been going on with the company and why Anthony Roberts had resigned. This led to a meeting between myself, Diana Betts, who was a director and still is, and the meeting was with Stephen Owens, who was the managing agent for the building where this company related. So we had a meeting, and he refused to answer any questions and offered his resignation, or stated he would resign a month later. Now, this was even though there'd been no fire risk assessment on the building, and I was starting to find the inconsistencies in the finances regarding the building. So, of course, I knew something was going on. We've got Anthony Roberts resigned. We've now got the managing agent suddenly resigned and refuses to answer any questions whatsoever about the building. I later find out that he's linked to the Russian government in the research, okay, and a huge part of the international deception against all of humanity. Within the building, there was a Durea family who owned 3 properties within the block. Okay, so it was a block of flats. There was 42 flats. I owned 1. The Durea families had 3. And as part of my inquiries, I managed to acquire 2 sets of bank documents. I put all of the figures in to a spreadsheet and worked out there was over £157,000 missing from other people going into our company, into that building to work for where I was a director, which meant I'd been defrauded, okay, because every time I'd been asked to pay by the managing agent, I'd obviously paid, presuming everything was being done legitimately and lawfully. The Durea family appeared to have paid absolutely nothing into that company for from 2022 to 2015 to 2022. They were the accounts that I had. So obviously I realised something big was going. The other set of accounts, I worked out that they had been produced teams from my evidence by somebody on the Treasury Department of Lloyds Bank. Okay, so I realised it was just spitting. So I was realising this is going to be pretty big at that point. Obviously, I'm reporting all of this to my previous police force. I'd already started reporting it to Action Fraud within December 2022. That was my first report. Well, I've now found movements within the Companies House records around the Pizzagate scandal and other major areas of the international criminal network against children around that time when I was starting to make the official reports to Action Fraud. I'd already started separating from my home address at this point because I realised it was getting big. And one of the reasons I knew it was getting big is because as I was starting to report, no, it was a bit later I separated from the home, sorry. It was a little bit later, it was after that. But one of the big signifiers for me was I started reporting it to my previous police force, Dorset. They ended up initially confirming that there was fraud that they had identified, and then later refused to re-acknowledge the reason behind them saying that and go into detail and explain what the fraud was. And obviously I'm continuously applying pressure to my previous police force. They're delaying a lot of the contact. They then provide 2 emails to me from 2 separate people, inadvertently confirming that they were allowing the banks to forged bank documents. All right, so I got 2 emails confirming that, and at that point I knew the police were involved. Okay, at that point I knew this was going to be huge. Of course, at this point I'm thinking maybe it's just Dorset Police. Now, Sam De Rea, same surname as those linked to Exbourne Manor, was the Assistant Chief Constable of the Economic and overseeing the Economic Crime Unit of Dorset Police, where I was making my reports at that point. Okay, so she was the Assistant Chief Constable for the whole of Dorset Police. I believe she was positioned specifically to assist in covering up what I was starting to identify. Now, if I go back a little bit, in March 2022, so I'm trying to think of everything chronologically. In March 2022, Deborah Fleming retires from the NHS. She was the CEO for the NHS for Hampshire, Isle of Wight and Dorset. So she resigns, and as I'm starting to make inquiries within the company, earlier inquiries, and it was actually around that month that I'd gone away on holiday with my friends Guy Briscoe, Kevin Miller, they were both in the police, and his cousin Craig Davies, I think it was a Davis, and they were asking me a lot of questions. Particularly Kevin was asking a lot about my faith, and at this time I'm starting to really go down the route of having a Christian faith, and he was asking me a lot of questions. This was in March. So I believe that was staged, and they then fed that information back to the Flemings and to everyone else involved all around me, and this then triggered Deborah Fleming to resign from or retire early from the NHS. She then Exbourne Manor, and they tried to make me believe that she had bought a Exbourne Manor Freehold Limited to make her come in as a owner of a flat. I believe that was all staged. Okay, as my investigations went on, so I acquired the 2 emails confirming inadvertently that the police were allowing the forged bank documents to be produced, which of course is massive, because then you're talking about they're not going to be doing it for this block of flats, are they? All right, and remember, over £157,000 stolen by omissions of payments from that building alone. That is without the excessive overcharges for the insurance, which I found out they were in cahoots with the insurance companies. And I know that because as I was still a director, I acquired an independent quotation for the building's insurance rather than going through the managing agent, and it was £4,000 or £5,000 cheaper annually. Okay, same policy, if not slightly better potentially, and they were overcharging on everything and then taking backhanders, I presume, through the insurance companies and every other policy. So you'll be talking in Exbourne Manor hundreds and hundreds of thousands alone for one block of flats stolen from everyone else that was involved in the building that would not have actually been in cahoots with the international government fraud with the Freemasons and everyone else. All right. Now, Sam De Rea, as I've said, she was overseeing the Economic Crime Unit of the department where I was reporting this to. She was also the Tactical Firearms Commander for the Metropolitan Police at the time. Anyway, I then start getting followed. I separate then in early 2023. I separate from Exbourne Manor, realising how big this is getting. Initially with my wife, thinking she was innocent, trying to protect her and me, but realising the implications upon humanity with what I was finding and knowing it had to be exposed. Okay, not quite realising how huge it was going to get. And it's just getting bigger every day. I mean, in a minute, we're going to be talking about cloning that I've now researched. We're going to be talking about the hunting of children. It's just unreal what I'm establishing, all linking into this, what I'm telling you. So we'll come to that in a bit. So anyway, we separated from the home address. Every now and then we'd go back in the middle of the night, and we were being followed. Okay, little did I know my wife was involved in it. So we were being followed. So Anthony Roberts would be up in the middle of the night and getting on his phone when we came back to the address. All right, when I was trying to get stuff from the address. I also had my emails infiltrated. So they went in and deleted loads of specific emails that was being conducted as part of my inquiries with all of the other directors to try and work out who was involved, who wasn't, who was innocent, and trying to establish what was going on. I also had a tracking app popping up on my phone, literally trying to track my location on my phone. Anyway, so we separated from the home address in a van, and I then am reporting everything to the police, and I escalate it to the Serious Fraud Office and the Independent Office for Police Conduct. They insist that Dorset Police still deal with it, even though I've got these emails confirming they're allowing the forged bank documents to be produced. So there wouldn't be an independent investigation at all. They then moved the Chief Constable, Scott Gilson, and the Assistant Chief Constable, Sam Derea. They moved them to Hampshire and Isle of Wight Police because they're realising, oh dear, Gary's starting to try and establishing what's going on here, and we need to try and remove the accountability and liability from them. Let's get somebody else in position. They bring in Amanda Pearson for the Metropolitan Police as the Chief Constable of Dorset. She's linked, it looks like, to the skinning of children alive, okay, via the research. So she's linked to skin companies, and she's connected to Clinton companies. All right, now we're going to come to the whole crimes against children in a minute and how big this really is now seeming to become. And it is all linking in with the Jeffrey Epstein files, everybody. The Jeffrey Epstein files and what's going on with Andrew is 100% about what I'm talking about. 100% certainty. The World Trade Center disaster, every terrorist incident, all world wars, all tying in with the Vatican, this international fraud, the Mazzini document from Albert fake Nazi regime, all to do with this. So anyway, where was I going? So I realised, okay, this is huge. They're aware I'm being followed. They're aware my emails are being infiltrated, that people are trying to track my location, and yet they're still trying to assist that the force that's involved in this is dealing with it. So it wouldn't be an independent investigation. Okay, so I then escalated it to the Home Office. There's loads of other stuff that's happened that I haven't told you. This is just really trying to keep, there's loads of meetings that took place where I tried to remove directors. So many things took place. Anyway, I then tried getting the Home Office involved, and they oversee all of the constabularies around the UK. And at this time, I'm trying to work out, doing research through Companies House, trying to find links in what's going on, what this is really about. And I find a connection to David Sidgwick, the Association of Police Crime Commissioner for the area of Dorset. And I find a link to him, the company that they've removed me for. And I do a spreadsheet and find that Export are linked to hundreds and hundreds of real estates, all connected real estate companies. So hundreds, if not thousands, of blocks of flats like Exbourne Manor, all connected together through the Companies House records. So if, for example, you're talking, let's say, argument's sake, £300,000 has been stolen for Exbourne Manor, you're talking times that by thousands. That's what I'm, just a rough figure. £167,000 I know of, and then all of the scams through the insurance companies, okay, you times that by the centralised criminal network that they've got in place, well, it's actually worldwide. It's worldwide centralised crime through real estate and through the centralisation of organisations around the world. Trillions, multi-trillions of pounds stolen through the masses, through the taxation system and other financial institutions. So the Home Office insist that the Association of Police and Crime Commissioners deal with the investigation. And obviously is actually part of Exmoor Manor. They're linked together. And they insist. So at that time, I realised we're talking major government fraud. But I didn't quite get to exactly how they were doing it and what it was all about. So this prompted me to look further into the Companies House records. And this is when I found out the real issue, which is where our governments have been involved in the forgery of the Company House registration system, the incorporation documents, as well as duplication of records, to create a centralised, organised criminal network, all involved with the Freemasons and linking in with the Vatican, going right back to the Reformation and the formation of governments in the 13th century was when this appears to have started. It probably goes back a lot earlier than that, but that's when it looks like they started to control the information, which is their biggest weapon, using a German company called Gutenberg's, which was producing the religious documents in the 13th century with a new technology and able to rapidly disseminate that around the world as the governments are being formed. And the government means mind control. So anyway, after that, of course, I started thinking, okay, well, maybe there's going to be some innocent people in government or media companies. So I try and contact all media companies that I can think of. They then start blocking me or refusing to respond. So I research them and find they're all part of the centralised criminal network, all working together with the governments and the police and the intelligence agencies. I then look into the Serious Fraud Office, the head of them, find they're involved. The Independent Office of Police Conduct, they're involved. The Prime Ministers, they're involved. The Presidents of the United States. We've now got Prime Ministers all over the world now complicit in all of this. A fact, everybody. And so now we're in this situation. Now, but because there's been no verification as well, then that's a huge issue. And I realise that because what that means is they've been allowing the fake names and fake addresses to be used, which means they're facilitating laundering of the money through these criminal companies in relation to international conflicts, terrorism, crimes against children, which we're going to come to in a minute, and drug trafficking. So, and then, of course, you start joining the dots to the Vatican. Okay, now you're falsifying the prophecy. You're leading into a prophetic situation on Earth, and then you find a connection to the colliders and how that links in, and earthquakes, tsunamis, and the Church of England, and the crimes against the children, and then it's all sort of just become this bigger picture as to really what's going on all of this. Now, before I talk about some of the latest evidence, I'm just going to see if there's any questions. So if you've got any questions, pop them on there. There's so much more I could tell you on what's leading up to it, but Gary, start doing food reviews. We'll get likes. Goodbye, Paul. I haven't got time for people like you. Actually, I'm going to be careful because I was a bit too quick at removing somebody last time, so I'm not going to remove people unless I have to. And I've actually, just so you know, that person I did accidentally removed, I've managed to learn how to unhide people, so he's able to be on here. He's probably put a few comments. Gary, they're portraying themselves as the 200 fallen angels. They changed their identity. Yeah, I've heard this. Yeah, I've heard that they may believe they are the 200 fallen angels. I don't think they really know what to believe with all of the research. I think they're hanging on to certain faiths. I don't think they really have a clue what to believe, and I think they are lost, very, very lost. I feel very, very sorry for the people involved in this. I don't think they're thinking rationally at all. They may believe that they are gods in all of this. Maybe they may be, and I think ultimately, they're trying to find the creator in all of this. That's what a lot of the information is suggesting in all of this. Yeah, many people have been sent the former documents. I haven't sent out the latest document yet because what I need to do is get to a point where it doesn't matter what happens to me. And you'll realise in a minute when I talk about what I've researched over the last few days, why it's important that I do that I get that out first, and then I can think about my next strategy and potentially can put myself at more risk by whatever it is I do. At the moment, I'm still trying to build the evidence. Okay, so, but previous documents have been sent out. Many people have seen them. Hopefully. So I'm being told. I didn't need the documents from him, though, to confirm everything. How many people are being used like you to launder through? I bet there are so many who don't know. How many are being used like you? I'm not going to delete you. I'm going to, unless there's something I really need to delete somebody for. What about the 115 driving licenses? Yes, we're going to be talking about that in a minute. That's one of the reasons I want to come on, and that's thanks to somebody else in a minute, and that may be the person that's told me about it. So we'll come to that in a minute. That's one of the things I've actually gone into quite a lot of research in the last day or so about that. Do you think you're on a watch list? Oh, 100%. 100%. Gary, check out, yeah, Rabbi at Finkelstein. Yeah, I'm aware of that. Him talking about putting the children and the meat into the food. We've got to consider that they are setting up a situation with a load of deception. However, I've got to say the evidence is overwhelming to what I'm finding in all of this, and we're going to come to that in a little bit in a minute. Can you speak in English? Oh, that's somebody else. How are you doing mentally? It must be draining. Yeah, I mean it's difficult every now and then, but you know I'm coping incredibly well considering. I have been quite tired, but lots of people claim they're being really tired at the moment. So I don't know whether they're doing something with the cell towers or whatever. I don't know, but I have noticed my energy levels aren't as good. But overall, you know, absolutely fine. I don't drink. I don't take drugs. My clarity is incredible, really. Probably the most clarity I've ever had in my entire life. Yeah, you know, still very motivated, very positive about all of it. I'm staying in a tent because I'm trying to protect the evidence. Because as soon as I go into any properties, then there's a chance that they'll be able to identify where I am. I mean, they probably know where I am anyway, but I'm just trying my best to preserve the evidence. Great to hear from the Netherlands. I hope you're doing well. This is absolutely I'm in the United Kingdom, by the way. This is absolutely linked to the Netherlands. I've found connections to the Netherlands in the last couple of days. It's international government fraud, and it will be affecting every single one of you. And even those that are involved in this fraud, I believe you're all going to be victimised by this ultimately if you don't come out and start talking about the truth. Do you think that Andrew will get prosecuted? No, it's a psyop. They're all in on it. They're all in on it. If the police are in on it, they're all in on it. This is, I believe, a time delay. Someone's asked, do you think that Andrew will get prosecuted, or is it a way to keep him safe as many people dislike Andrew? No, I believe it's a time delay. All right. It gets you thinking, oh, maybe they're doing something about all of this. That means you're not going to do anything. You're going to sit back and put your head down and just wait for somebody else to deal with this. You need to act now. You need to act right now. All right, according to my evidence. All of you that's innocent in this. I can't emphasize this enough. What about the stealing of our organs? Yeah, I'm going to come. Absolutely. I'll mention it now since we're talking about it. So somebody has very kindly prompted me to look at the driving licenses element, and they suggested that the 115 on your driving license means that you're automatically a donor provider. Okay, that you're if you pass away, then your donors will be used in whatever way. Now, I checked my driving license and I've got 115 on it. I've confirmed and verified this information. Go and check it yourself, and you'll see that if you have 115 on your driving license, then it means that you are a organ donor, even though you may not have consented to that anywhere else, right? Which is a massive issue. Now, let me explain why this is a massive issue. You are living 100% under an organised, sinister, criminal network in your governments, police, intelligence agencies, and military. It's heavily linked to the international drug trafficking trade. They are behind the drug trafficking trade. Your police, your military, your intelligence agencies, your counsellors, your government organisations are the real criminals in this world. And they have dressed them up in suits to deceive you and get you believe you can trust them. Every government organisation has been set up around this system of crime and fraud, linking to the taxation system, which means they create the problems, they have the control, they then provide a solution and defraud you through that solution to fund the criminal network that they are involved in. Now, many of them, I anticipate, will be addicts, whether that be cocaine or other drugs, which means they have a continuous habit that they need to supply, okay, to actually fund. That means there is a constant need for money to be coming in to facilitate that international addiction problem that they are actually creating. And of course, they are the ones that create the rehabilitation for the addiction, which means you have a conflict of interest because they don't want the addictions to stop, because then it stops the international drug trade and the criminal network they're involved in. This is a fact, everybody, okay? The twins, all right, the international gangsters and mafias that appear to have taken over the world through the governments. And it goes right back, if you go look at well, it goes back a long way, but specifically 1870 appears to be a very important year. 1870 is when it looks like they took over the Vatican, the main religious establishment across the world, and they actually, it looks like, imprisoned the popes in the Vatican City. Well, it was the year after that that the letter was written to Mazzini from Albert Pike, who was a high-level occultist and Freemason, setting out the three world war deception to take over the world. Okay, and I think that's absolutely what we're seeing now, is the Third World War element of that. If you look at the Albert Pike letter, at the end of World War II, it says they will wait to unleash their final social cataclysm. And I think my exposure of the international government fraud has triggered the Third World War III element in all of this that we're seeing. Now, every government head is involved. Okay, they've all been positioned. Everything you're seeing on the news is a lie in terms of the risk of international conflicts. Everything they're saying is a deception, a distraction from the truth. They are all working together. Fact, I've got the evidence. This includes Vladimir Putin. It includes the leader of China, the leader of Iran, Donald Trump. They are all working together on this international government fraud. Every leader of every political party is involved. Rupert Lowe, Nigel Farage, Obama, all of them. All of them. It's worth trillions. It's linked to the drug trade. It's linked to the sex trade, including paedophilia and the very serious crimes against children. So, organs are worth a vast amount of money. Now, check your driving license. All of you are going to have 115 on your driving license, which means you're an organ donor. That immediately provides a motive for them not to save your life. Okay, now remember, the health organisations have been positioned around this international government fraud. The NHS was set up, I think it was 1947 or 1948. You had the Doomsday Clock set up in 1947. There was UNICEF, okay, and the supposedly helping international children around the world in relation to international conflict specifically was set up in 1946, the same year as the Mind Group, the mental health group, enabling the infiltration and the control of humanity through the health system. The Tavistock Institute was a mind control program started in 1946 as well. It was integrated into the NHS when the NHS 47. The Association of Chief Police Officers in the United Kingdom was set up in 1948, the same year as the Israel-Arab War, all fomented by the Balfour Declaration of 1917 involving the Rothschilds. The Rothschilds are massively involved in this international government fraud. And the Balfour Declaration will tie in with the Albert Pike letter, the deception of the three world wars going back to 1871, when that letter was written by the head of by Albert Pike, high-level occultist Freemason, to the head of the Illuminati, linking in with the Vatican. So your organs are worth a vast amount of money. We have addicts, it seems, running the world. That means there's a motive not to save your lives, and even potentially for that to be one of the reasons that they set up the healthcare system in the first place, for the ability to steal your organs and then sell them for vast. I'm pretty sure you're going to have 115 on it. Mine has. I've never consented, as far as I'm aware, to give my organs to anybody. Okay, now, like I've said, that is a motive. If you are involved in needing medical help, it's a motive for them not to keep you alive. And a lot of people have been questioning, why are there no cemeteries being built? Why are no new cemeteries being established? Well, think about it. If they are removing the organs and selling them and then getting rid of the remains, okay, they obviously at times will have to pretend that they are burying people. They could do that easily. This is why, remember, everything has been centralized. So the undertakers are all connected. Okay, they're all connected. All right, everything has been centralized. All solicitors, all financial advisors, all accountants, all insurance companies, all part of this international government fraud. All supermarkets, everything that is on a bigger organization has been centralized to this criminal network. Remember, they've had 700 years at least to do this, to centralize it and take over the world. Okay, but there's a lot more. There's even more sinister agendas behind taking over the world, according to all of my research as well. So, license, you probably have 115 on it. You can get it removed, I believe, by sending your driving license off. I still wouldn't trust these people to not do it anyway. All right, they're not thinking rationally. We are not being run by people that have clarity and rationality. They have completely lost it, I'm afraid to say. They cannot be trusted under any circumstances. Now, the main organisation in the United Kingdom, or part of the NHS, is the blood transfusion and transit. I can't remember. I've got it written down. There's an acronym for it. I've researched that today. Straight into the centralised criminal network, the crimes against children, fraudulent companies, all the way through it. This is the main organisation involved in organs, being shipped around the country and being used in operations. It also then links in with the main United Kingdom surgeons organisation. Why do you think there's doctors involved in all of this? Why do you think you had Harold Shipman, one of the biggest serial killers in the United Kingdom, was a doctor? Why do you think 6 doctors went away during the and when she? Why do you think the doctor of the Russell killings in Chillenden, the dad, of the one of the daughters that died in the Chillenden murders, is a doctor, and he links to the Satanic Temple United Kingdom. This is the dad of the Russells that was attacked in Chillenden in whatever year that was. I've researched it. Go straight into it. The father goes into this criminal network straight away. He was a doctor. Okay. Apparently, a lot of doctors are leaving the country. I don't know how true that is, but apparently they are. What else was I going to say about that? Yeah, so going into through that organisation in the NHS that deals with it, straight into the same centralised criminal network, fraudulent companies. So this means that will relate to the 115 on your driving licenses, which means there is a motive not to save your life, because your organs are worth a lot of money to this criminal network. The incinerators organisations, the incinerators are all involved in this. My wife's friend, who was called Nathan Adams, ex-military from Australia, is a manager for the incinerator at Bournemouth Hospital. He turned against me, and he links the incinerator straight in to the international criminal network, criminal organisations linking into the crimes against children and everything else. Straight in. So this, of course, means the incinerators are able to be used to dispose of any remains as well. And this would explain why Nathan, and he may be a good guy in all of this. It may be because everyone around me is massively implicated in it, but it could be they've been positioned to be seen to be part of it, and maybe was part of it, but they're actually good and have been protecting me throughout all of my life to come forward and do this. I mean, my family's linked in key individuals in all of this almost immediately. Elon Musk, Donald Trump, Ghislaine Maxwell, Jeffrey Epstein's very closely connected, Julian Assange of the Doomsday Cult, linking in, all coming in from all three of my families. And you've got the Honourable Knights, the Honourable Society of the Knights of the Round Table, and the Knights Templar links almost, not immediately, but very, very quickly to my school, my former school that I went to in Kent, called the Thomas Aveling School, which is on Arethusa Road in Rochester. That was my former school. And then you hit a load of Jerusalem and companies. So, what else was I going to say? Yeah, so I've covered the driver license. Let me just have a look at... I'm going to get rid of, sorry, Rocket, but I don't know why you're talking about food reviews on here. Black pudding, yeah, I'm sorry. Do you think that Andrew, yeah, I've said about Andrew, definitely a psyop. They're all involved in it. Police are involved. It's just, now it's interesting. Vanessa sent me a couple of videos. On one of the news reports, they were showing that he was at Aylsham without an E, which is in Norwich. Another news report said Aylsham with an E, okay, which is Aylsham in Kent, which is where Vanessa is. Now, I suspect that was a deliberate misspelling, deliberately to link in with the potential infiltration of the royal family. Now, I have to have a very, very open mind in all of this and consider that everything could be a deception. However, the infiltration of the royal family certainly does appear to be, according to all of the evidence I've got, a real thing that's happening, that's happened, and links into all of my evidence. And it appears as though that was around the early 1960s, late 1950s, and it looks as though the Cray twins were involved in the infiltration of the royal family, and my family associated with the Cray twins. The Cray twins now, I'm finding connections all the way through this. Okay, and one connection I found is that they had a club which they founded called the Double R Club, which I didn't know about until a couple of days ago. Well, coming in from my wife's family, or coming in from the research you've got on Morton Mansions, which is my wife's family surname, which makes links to Exbourne Manor, and I'd already found connections, multiple connections from my wife's family to Exbourne Manor. You have Double R companies. Now that's, to me, it's too much of a coincidence, and I suspect with the connection with my family and in Kent, and the Crays already established, that there is a connection also with the Crays and my wife's family, who I was led to from my family, introduced to my wife 3.5 hours away from where I had moved without knowing anybody at all down there. Now I've got to say, the evidence that I've got, either, and I'm going to talk about the hunting of children here and how important this is. Let me just see if there's any. 115 revoke with DVLA, someone's put. I'm an ex-armed forces cyber warfare professional. I did 8 years in exile just to stay free and alive. They sent the helicopter after me. Great to have you on here. Great to have you on here. I'm not getting enough military, ex-military or, current military coming out. Many of them, unfortunately, I think are going to be implicated in this, even if it's just the financial elements of it. Meet Queen Elizabeth II. Met her a few times. Wish Princess Anne was next on the throne. Oh, she's massively implicated. They're all implicated. Everyone in the royal family, Prince Harry and Prince William, massively implicated in this. They're all involved. I believe in my heart it's all true. I have had too many strange things to say otherwise. Thank you, Patricia. I figured. Are we talking about non-humans? I would say so. I believe that's a deception at the moment based on all of my evidence, because I've actually got evidence where it looks as though they've changed company records to make it look like aliens. And a lot of the people that are heavily implicated in this tried to get me to believe that there were aliens and there might be a fake alien invasion. Of course, they then set up the 3I Atlas comet that was closest to the world, the Earth, on the 19th of December, I think it was. And somebody tried to make me believe that they had taken a load of the bad people away on the 3I Atlas. I don't believe it, I'm sorry to say. Think about it, it's the perfect opportunity for them to explain all of this away. They even set up by having the... they brought out the V series again. So it was originally out in the 1980s or 90s, wasn't it? Remember the lizards that were peeling the skin off? And they were apparently taken over the world. Well, they brought out another series of it in, I think it was November or December 2009. That was 2 months after I became a director of Exmoor Manor, and that they formed 2 weeks after I became a director, okay, in September 2009 for Exmoor Manor. They then incorporated the Royal Foundation of the Prince and Princess of Wales. I had no idea at the time. That links most areas of the fraud together, and it was in December or November they brought out the second series of, or another series of the V series. So I think they were trying to trigger the idea that aliens or lizards may have taken over the world. Now, I'm very open-minded, but the fact that you've got people like David Icke linked to the intelligence agencies saying that the world is being run by lizards, well, that's the intelligence agencies who are behind the international government fraud telling you that. So I don't believe it. I'm sorry. All right, it'd be the perfect opportunity, wouldn't it, to say that they've been taken away on a spaceship, or that there's going to be an invasion and we're going to save everybody, and they save everybody, and then you can then trust them again. Or they use that as an opportunity to wipe out most of humanity and keep themselves alive and blame it on aliens. I don't believe it at the moment. Based on all of my evidence I've got at the moment, I don't believe that's the case. All right, and it also, what it does is separates you from believing in a creator. And as soon as you believe in a creator, you lose pretty much all of your fear, like I have. All right, I've gone against absolutely everybody. I'm in a tent thinking I'm going to be killed any minute. I'm not stopping. I haven't stopped at any point because I realised the consequences to humanity, not realising obviously the extent of it back then, but I realised this is huge and I need to continue the exposure. And it was when I was researching the World Trade Center disaster and thinking, what is it about fire and brimstone? Why does the Bible say fire and brimstone? What's that all about? Why am I doing what am I doing? I'm putting everybody at risk, all my family. Why fire and brimstone? Turn the page and there was the word brimstone on an address that I'd never seen on any of the other hundreds, if not thousands of companies I looked at. There was the word brimstone. And I knew at that point that I was positioned to do this. And no matter what, I must continue with the exposure against all of the odds. And I believe this is the key to heaven on earth, through the disclosure, to change the system forever, to actually bring in a new system, which means this will never happen again. All right, to protect children and protect humanity moving forward. And I actually think that's what's going to happen, providing enough people do the right thing. At the moment, it seems as though nobody is doing the right thing, which needs to be citizens' arrest of to get a point where I'm just going to be saying, bring on the judgment. Bring on the judgment now of humanity, because we don't deserve to be alive. If we're not going to be doing anything about the crimes against the children, then that will become, that I can't be the only one on the planet doing something about this. There's going to come a point where I'm just going to bring on the judgment. Now, they've made me believe I have the ability to change the outcome in all of this. And that was it was clearly what they were doing, through a publication of an asteroid strike on the Earth. After I'd found out or researched the doomsday clock coming in from the atomic bulletin of the atomic scientists, I came across by mistake a company called 2032 Limited. And because we're in 2025, I thought, okay, that what they're going to do is set up an apocalyptic deception in 2032, potentially with an asteroid strike. All right, because I'd already found, going in through the research of Darren Brown, who was a hypnotist, an apocalyptic apocalyptic deception that he was involved in 2000 called Apocalypse. Sorry, in 2012, called Apocalypse, where an asteroid hit the Earth, and that asteroid was called Swift, and it was to make somebody believe that had really happened, that the world was ending. And they filmed it all. They used his family. They had special effects set up. They used actors. They set the TV news channels up to make it look like it was all happening. Well, Darren Brown linked straight into the deception. He linked straight into political parties via the Companies House records. And in fact, the very first television was called Mind Control. Mind Control mean governments. And he's linked into the governments. Okay, and from him you have College of Policing. So anyway, I found this information, 2032, thought, okay, maybe they're going to set up a tribulation period, 7-year tribulation, starting from this year, ending in 2000. I went on a live stream with just an ordinary citizen, said this, I said, look, I think what they're going to do is set up a fake asteroid strike on the Earth in 2032, potentially, or something similar to, in terms of an apocalyptic event. 2 days later, my sister contacts me and said, Gary, have you seen the front pages of the newspapers? No. Looked at them, checked online, there was an asteroid that might hit the Earth in 2032. 2 days after I'd gone on that live stream and said it. Now, they apparently had seen that asteroid in December 2024 to my live stream, which says they were listening and wanted me to believe that I have the ability to determine the outcome in all of this. There's no other reason why they would have done it. It can't be to discredit me. I had all of the evidence secured in relation to everything I've just told you. There it was on the front pages. Even in someone in New Zealand, one of my contacts said it was all over the newspapers there. An asteroid potentially going to hit the Earth. Then it's not going to miss the Earth, but it might hit the moon. Well, in my research around that time, I was establishing Earthshot prize and moonshot linking in. Okay, so they must have been watching what I was researching on the Companies House records, had an Earthshot and a moonshot linking in with the royal family and everything else that I was exposing. So they obviously want me to believe I have the ability to determine the outcome of all of this. Now, I know the right thing that needs to happen is you all need to go and start arresting the solicitors through citizens' arrests. All right, it will be triggered from there, a new Earth. If you don't do that, I anticipate the world is in a serious amount of trouble. Serious amount of trouble if we don't do something now. We cannot sit back. Now, I have to say, with the evidence that I've got, they've either set it up to make me believe they're hunting children and skinning them alive and torturing them, or they actually are doing that. I have got overwhelming evidence now that supports that fox hunting was actually started as a way of a cover to hunting children on estates, okay, torturing them, killing them, and how that links into the blood of the children. I've found loads of evidence over the last few days supporting all of this. I'm not the only one saying this. If you've heard of, I've forgotten his name now, Kevin Annett. Kevin Annett is talking about the Ninth Circle and claiming that the royal family, not only in the United Kingdom, but in other countries, are involved in the hunting of children on estates and places like that before they torture those children. Well, my evidence now overwhelmingly supports that that's what those in charge of this system are doing. Now, it could have, I still have to consider, they've set an elaborate trail of evidence up to expose themselves as doing that. Now, would they do that? Would they set themselves up to be exposed as killing children and hunting and skinning children? Hard to believe, isn't it? So therefore, we've now got to come back to that it's actually really happening. And I've got overwhelming evidence to saying this is a huge part of this international government fraud. There's so many connections into the skinning of children, into the torture, into the blood of the children, now tying in with the fox hunting. Fox hunting was originally in the United Kingdom, and I think it was one of the first places in the certainly the United Kingdom in the 16th century in Yorkshire. Now, York is historically very, very important in all of this. And it looks as though fox hunting began there. We've obviously got the Archbishop, or the Duke of York, sorry, is Andrew. Very relevant in itself. The Romans had a big part, although they came in from the southeast and into Kent, first of all, according to the research in, I think it was 41 AD, according to the research. They were also involved in forming York as almost a capital for, I think it was the capital for, I might get this wrong, so because I haven't got my research in front of me. Definitely the capital for the United Kingdom. I think also capital for part of Europe, big part of Europe, I think. Very, very important in relation to the Romans. Well, the Romans massively link into Saturnalia, which then links into the mockery of Christmas, and where it appears as though they're actually getting you to celebrate the 25th of December, when that is the date linking into the sacrifice and the murder of children as a mockery against you. That is what appears to be happening. All right, there's loads of evidence now linking Saturnalia. They've even got a company, Saturnalia Limited, I think it is, links immediately in to Mohammed Al Fayed, who was, as you know, the father of Dodi Al Fayed, who was in a relationship with Princess Diana. He connects immediately to Exmoor Manor Freehold Limited via Harrods Company and a name of Mavis June Latter. These companies, well, Mavis June Latter connects to Swift Incorporations Limited, and Swift Incorporations Limited is on the incorporation document for Exmoor Manor where my investigation began. So that means that links them to Saturnalia, which means we've got a link now to Rome, and Saturnalia is where they were worshipping Saturn, and Saturn is almost the same as Satan in the wording. So, you know, we've got all of these connections. There's already connections into the Satanic Temple United Kingdom, but I do suspect, and strongly suspect, that they've infiltrated the Church of Satan to make it look like it's Satan, because that will fit the falsified prophecies more. That will fit the prophecies moving forward. If they make it seem as though it's Satan that has taken over the entire world as an evil, plan to fit that prophecy, that means they can come in with a prophecy event to then reset the system. Whether that be Armageddon, they save themselves, or whatever it is that they're planning in all of this. Now, I know massively linked into all of this, and I believe it's a deception, is the 3-eye Atlas comet, as I've said earlier. And I know that the Iona prophecy links massively in relation to all of this, which is where St. Columba, who originated from Ireland, came across to an Iona on Scotland, according to the research, and made a prophecy that the end of the world would occur with a beam of light off the coast of, or near to Iona, which is a small island on the west coast of Scotland. Massively links in through the Company's House research to all of this. And the Flemings, not the ones that initiated my removal, but their family members actually lived just north of Iona. So the fox hunting connection's massive in all of this now. Fox hunting was banned in 2005, but they didn't ban it in Ireland and other parts of the world. And I've found links in to Ireland coming in from what appears to be the hunting of children, linking in with the crimes against children, crimes of children. This all links in with Jeffrey Epstein, by the way. Jeffrey Epstein's all the way through this that I'm telling you about. He'll be a puppet, of course. There'll be people behind him, massively linking into the black nobility members of the Vatican. It's hugely connected in all of this. The whole system has been centralized into the Vatican. Okay, so a great example of this is a company. If you go and type in Field Fisher LLP, go in through that company, just click on each director, and you'll see there's loads and loads of solicitors firms linked to that organisation. Well, Field Fisher has the contract for the BBC. It's a solicitor, and it links in to Mishcon de Reya. Mishcon de Reya, I believe, is the de Reya family, and the Mishcon de Reya evidence connects to the Vatican via the research, and I established that through the death of Jill Dando. Now, with all of the evidence I've got, I do suspect now, although I believe some deaths have been staged, I believe Princess Diana, if she didn't die, if it wasn't an accident, like they claim, 100% died because of this. Jill Dando, 100% murdered because of this. Michael Jackson, 100% murdered because of this. If they're all really dead, of course, it's possible that it's part of their massive deception on everybody. We've got to ask why I'm still alive. That's a big question. Let's face it, if they're going to kill anyone, it would be me, wouldn't it? I'm the one putting pictures of everybody linking to irrefutable evidence of an international criminal network. Now, that means either they can't kill me because they know something about me, or they haven't been killing a lot of other people. It's only going to be one of those two things, isn't it? I'm sure they could find me if they really wanted to and get rid of me. They've already had police dogs tracking my location. Mate, they've gone into my tent. And I know full well they could have taken me out prior to me going into prison, because there was events which I know they knew where I was. So then you got to ask the question, well, why? Why haven't they taken me out? I don't work for them. I don't work for anyone other than truth and moral conscience. I'm all by myself in a tent. I can't meet anybody whatsoever. All government organisations are involved in this. In my view, they all need to be arrested. If I could now remove the police, not harm them, not cause suffering, remove the police, all military, all MPs, all prime ministers around the world, just put them somewhere so they're out of the way, so they haven't got an influence, all Freemasons, okay, and then we just get some people to come in and bring in a new system, I would do that. That's what needs to happen, and that's why we need arrests to take place. But we have to start, I believe, with the solicitors, and the solicitors have been centralised to the Temple Bar. The Temple Bar links in to pie, okay, literally pies that were being eaten at the Temple Bar, okay, paedophile information, links to Field Fisher and all of the same solicitors, the Sweeney Todd group that they've created on Company's House as a company. Sweeney Todd, if you're not aware, was the barbershop where they kill people and put people in pies. They've created a company linking to them all, telling us. Now, either they've set that up as a deception and they want us to think they've done that when they haven't, in which case they're exposing themselves, or, this is a mockery to all of humanity, and they've been putting the information right there in front of us all, and we've never worked it out until this evidence is being exposed now. So I'm going to go with, at the moment, I have to consider that everything is really true going on, the crimes against children, that we are all at risk of all of creation, okay? And there's multiple links in to the Collider technology and what appears to be a plan to either end all of creation or end most of humanity in that plan. Now, this could be the ultimate plan against everybody, even those that are involved in the fraud, because let's face it, what they would want if everybody, then you have something in place, you draw people in to deception, and then you judge them all potentially. You take them all out. We have to consider that. At the moment, I still have to consider that that's an option. They regulate humanity, or they are going to take out all of creation. And if I suspect that's the case, with the evidence I've got, and if I suspect that children are really, really being subjected to harm, risk of harm and threat and suffering, then we must do something about this. But I cannot do it alone. I can't be the only person doing this. I can't be the only one that is willing to fight for the children. Surely, I can't. I don't even have children. I'm not even the biggest fan of children. 3 hours with a child, and I need a break. So I'm going to talk about cloning. I cannot ignore the evidence that I've found surrounding cloning today. I cannot ignore it. It's massive. Okay, they brought in the Embryo and Fertilization Act in, can't remember the year, can't remember, it's gone out of my head. But the chair of that organisation, I've researched them, and I'm now linking it in with Dolly the sheep that was cloned. With the same companies, all the way through the organisation that was involved in Dolly the sheep, which was a sheep that was born in 1996, I want to say, died in 2003, either side of the World Trade Center disaster. Now, it could be a deception, but all of the Company's House records link into the same centralized criminal network, linking in with Dolly the sheep and this embryo research that I'm now doing. So we have to consider that cloning could be an element of this. It's huge, everybody. I mean, it looks as though we're undoubtedly, humanity is one big experiment to these people, and what I mean by that is, you've got Operation Paperclip stemming from the Nazi regime of the 1940s, which merged into MK Ultra and other mind control programs such as the Tavistock Institute that I mentioned earlier. That links in with my research massively, and in fact That was how I found the connection to my school, all right, via a company called MK Limited, and its former name Limited Medway, the area where I was born. Am I being controlled somehow in all of this? But with what I'm experiencing, they would have to be controlling my mind, my environment, and time. And if they are controlling me, they're controlling me to expose their entire system and everybody within it that's part of it. So would they do that? Would they create me to control an exposure of them? I don't know. But if I'm talking about the control, manipulation of time, matter, and my mind, then we're talking about God. We're talking about, sorry, I won't say God because I believe that was a mock. I believe, and I've been told this, that God actually means God, gold, oil, and drugs. And they've been mocking you again, getting you to pray to God. Gold, oil, and drugs. It would not surprise me with these people. This is the sort of thing they would do, everybody. All right, that's why I say the creator in everything now. I say the creator. And I absolutely 100% believe in a creator. And let me just explain why I believe in a creator. First of all, I look at nature and I see design and I think it's absolutely incredible. All right. Our governments are trying to separate us from creation with technology. It's very clear. All our children, your children, are playing on games consoles constantly. They want to look at technology. They're not so interested in how incredible nature is. They devalue nature. Okay. That's exactly what they would do, isn't it? If they're against creation. Remember, everything seems to have been inverted against creation. We know in a rational state of mind, we have moral conscience, which is where I know when I'm rationally thinking what is right and wrong in terms of I don't want to be hurt, I don't want to be stolen from, I don't want to be abused, so I won't do it to anybody else. I won't speak to somebody in a way I wouldn't want to be spoken to whilst I'm thinking rationally. When I lose my rationality, whether it be through having too much to drink or I'm too tired, then I may speak to somebody in a way that I feel bad afterwards, and then I feel guilt, and therefore that affects me as well as them. Now, their whole system is set up to remove irrationality. It's very clear. They're behind the drugs, they're behind the alcohol, they're behind the poisoning of your food, water, and air. They're behind the pharmaceuticals, which will be affecting you, it seems. They're behind the radiation being emitted from various types of technology. They make you work far more than you ever needed to because they're stealing most of your money. They're stealing most of the money. They're behind all of the world's problems. This system has to be brought down. And in a controlled, transitional way, which is so important. Now, if we don't do it in a way like I'm saying, or some sort of strategy, gradual process, then we're going to have potentially a hard reset. If we even get to have a reset. Now, their reset, to control it, will be benefiting them. It won't be benefiting the millions, billions, potentially, of innocent people in all of this. And most people, of course, are innocent. We've only got a very small number of people at the head of this that are involved in the very serious crimes against, and the plans against all of creation, humanity, according to this, and the very serious crimes of the children. Unfortunately, I think there's more than I hoped, but we will have millions and millions of people involved in the fraud because they've enticed people into the fraud. The Freemasons are compromised. 6 million Freemasons on the planet. All of their friends, all of their family are going to be compromised in all of this. They're compromised because of the financial element. They've set up this fake charitable front to make people believe they're a good thing. Most of the charities are criminal organisations given the ability to launder the money through. Great example is the age concern companies, all the way through my research. All the way through my research, whichever angle I come company, almost immediately. So that means they can launder money stolen from the masses through those charities and into the offshore accounts and make it seem as though they are charitable organisations. All Freemasons need to be arrested, in my view. That means 6 million people at least need to be Freemasons, need to be arrested of the Freemasons. And of course, you'll have all of their friends and their family involved in this. That's how everyone else. You know, so you've got millions of people have been enticed into this. Millions of people have been tempted in through the finances, the drugs, the sexual side of this. They're behind the sex trade, illegal and legal. It's clear. It's very clear. Problem, reaction, solution, criminal network. If there are no problems, how can they request more money from you? Now, of course, this has provided the motive. The more people there are for them, this is how it's been until recently, possibly, the more people there are, the more money they can defraud from people. There's been no motive until recently to look at how many people there really are and is it going to be an issue or not. They've just been thinking, well, they need as much, until, over the last 2 or 3 decades, or however long they've been talking about population. It goes back a bit further than that, doesn't it? But, until then, they've been obviously wanting as many people as possible. Now, if we look at the benefit system here in the United Kingdom, what was they doing until fairly recently? Making it more financially viable to have children. Okay, because the more children you have, you can claim these benefits and you actually end up having more finances from having more children. Well, that then feeds into their system. Now, we don't know how many people there really are on the planet, because we cannot believe a word these people are saying. We cannot believe anything you're seeing now. You cannot believe it unless they're talking about the company's house fraud. I'm sorry, it's obvious. Anyone that's not talking about it, many people have been thinking Candice Owens, she's brilliant. Carlson, they're massively implicated in it. I've already got the evidence. Massively implicated in it. They've set all of these people in positions to say a lot of the right things to draw you in, to make you think something's being done, or to get you to trust certain individuals so you don't do anything, giving them more time to plan what their next move is, to control the situation and move it into their benefit, into a system that benefits them. And you've got this organisation linking into Candice Owens, which is where they're centralising the stock market to a new digital centralised stock market. The centralised control of the world governments. They're going to be moving into, according to all of the research, centralised digital currency control. If that happens, we're in serious trouble, because you've got criminals running the system that appear to be hunting children, skinning children. Now, the evidence is pretty strong that what they're doing, P. Diddy, by the way, from key areas, you'll see when I send my document out eventually, you'll see P. Diddy. If you just type P. Diddy in the document, you'll see it ties into everything. All right? Now, right by where he was living, you had a dock, okay, which was where freight containers, it's a huge dock. I can't remember what they called. Shipping containers, that's it. Shipping containers. And I found key parts recently in the evidence where the hunting of the children ties into the shipping companies and the ports. So it looks as though they are hunting loads and loads of children. Bringing them in from other countries. I found there's a link into the South African Chamber of Commerce and Industry, which looks as though there's links into the potential hunting of children. So what they looks like they're doing is they're shipping people in around the world and children in around the world, and then using them for either organ harvesting or the hunting of the children, the blood of the children, torturing them. Vast amounts of money that people are paying to live stream what's happening to a child or to an adult. It's just, that's what all of the evidence says. Now, either that's really happening, or they've set it up with the irrefutable evidence to prove that that's happening and expose them. Would that happen? I don't know. I have to consider that. But now I've got to go with, at the moment, I think what we're looking at is really happening, which means we've got to do something. Starting to lose you a bit, same thing. Once certain things start coming out, the truth, then stuff gets shut down. What about the Muslims, Gary? Are they good? Everybody's got good people, everybody's got bad, all right? This isn't about, in my view, and based on all of my evidence, it's not about skin colour and a faith group. Every faith group has been infiltrated. So we're all brothers and sisters and I keep saying this because it's so important, we are all being deceived. These people, whether they be Sikhs, Muslims, Christians, all people, do not want to be generally physically hurt, do they? Themselves. Okay, most people would agree with that. They wouldn't want to be stolen from themselves. Now, if their faith actually promotes that they cause and go against that to somebody else, then I disagree with that. Because that's going against, I believe, the true creator, whatever the name of the true creator is, then it's going against that, because they don't want to be stolen from, they don't want to be hurt, and yet they're willing to condone harm and theft from somebody else. So I believe everybody has been infiltrated. There's so many connections to the Christians in all of this. In fact, Christianity could be one of the biggest organizations behind this, but I believe the Christians would have been infiltrated. And when you look at the scripture, the Old Testament talks a lot about the crimes against children, sacrificing children, the blood of the children. Now, of course, in the churches, they drink what they claim is the blood of Christ. And many of the people I know in churches are massively implicated in this. Massively implicated in this. Now, I don't believe for a second that the true creator, or someone such as Jesus, if they existed, which most faiths believe that he existed, would condone any blood of the children, any suffering of anyone really, but certainly not suffering of the innocents, the most innocent of all. So they're going against the creator. Whichever way you look at it, these people behind this, and anyone that continues to ignore it, is going against the creator, because they're going against moral conscience. And therefore, if we don't do something about this, I think it's going to be the end of everything, one way or another. And to be honest with you, I'll be calling upon a judgment upon the earth if people don't start doing anything, because I'll be praying for it to happen, to be honest with you, because we cannot allow the suffering of the children to continue. We cannot allow the suffering of the children to continue. Now, I don't think that's meant to happen. I believe everybody's been deceived, because I don't know how can you truly judge somebody if they are being separated from their moral conscience because of the system that's in place. You know, how can I condemn somebody that's so tired or been poisoned so much that they're doing things they wouldn't normally do because of the system around them that has removed their rationality and therefore the conscience? It's the system that's the problem. It's those behind the system that need to be held to account. Those that are instrumental in ensuring that this system continues. But if we don't do anything, then we all become instrumental. We all become complicit. And therefore, we have to judgment. It can't go on. This cannot go on. We cannot allow the suffering of children according to all of the research. Even if there's any slight chance that it's true, we can't allow it to go on. Now, they're telling us, aren't they? They're telling us on the news. I presume I'm not the only one seeing this. Set up for me. Looking at people, and the Jeffrey Epstein files are coming out. What is it telling us? It's telling us that those involved in our system, running our governments, are involved and linked to the crimes against the children. If we aren't going to start doing anything about that, then we don't deserve to be here. I'm sorry to say. Now, it could be they've set it up for that reason, and they're going to come in as the judgment and keep themselves alive. Possibly. Now, I had a dream last night, and my dreams tend to be quite relevant. Horrible dream, and dreamt that for whatever reason, I had snails I can't remember what they were in, live snails, and I put boiling water onto those snails. And initially, it didn't startle me and it didn't wake me up. And there was something else that was happening that I can't remember. It was mainly the snails. And then suddenly it just woke me up. And I was like, oh, I can't believe I just did that. And I was trying to figure out why I would have had that. Now, I don't have many dreams that I remember, and hardly any of them wake me up. The last one that woke me up was a very relevant dream in relation to the to McDonald's, which led to some critical evidence tying my family into the apparent infiltration of the royal family and linking it in with McDonald's, where I used to get taken as a child for children's parties in Chatham. And again, Chatham's very relevant in all of this, and I'll come to that in a minute if you haven't heard me say it already. And I was thinking, what's this all about? Anyway, I went on to this was this morning, and I've taken screenshots. I went on, someone had sent me a Facebook video on Messenger, and I went into it, and I thought, I very rarely scroll Facebook. And I was scrolling through, and there was you get those, how many animals can you see? And I was looking at it, I was trying to find, just seeing if I could see the animals, and read the comments, and I hadn't seen it, and they said, there's a snail in the eye. And I zoomed in, and there was a little snail, just as the eye as the bear. And I think the reason for the dream, I thought about I was trying to think about what this might be. And obviously what I was doing in that dream, I was torturing those snails. And then it startled me, and it woke me up, and it was almost like a nightmare. And I remember when I was a kid at school, and people would, daddy long legs or crane flies, whatever you call them. People in my class, I remember, would pull the legs off of the crane fly. And I remember upset with those people, so upset with them. It would just break my heart seeing what they were doing. And I've always been somebody that has valued all life. When I was, and there'll be people who take the mick out of me, and that's fine. When I was around 11, I went to Canada, and my friend would say this, and when the swimming pool where we were staying, I would go and save all of the flies off of the surface of the water. And I've always been like that. Always been like that. I remember when I was having a golfing lesson with my dad, and there was a moth on the ground, and the instructor killed the moth, and I couldn't carry on. I couldn't carry on, and I couldn't go for another golf lesson. So I think the dream was telling me how, for whatever reason, humanity has got used to taking life for granted, other life, shall we say, and even to some extent has been torturing, whether deliberately or inadvertently. Now, I'm not saying everybody would pull the legs off of a poor dragonfly or whatever, or crane fly, but what I'm saying is, I think it was symbolic for me to realise and portray that we've taken life for granted, and that whether we realise it or not, we are causing suffering to the natural world. And probably a huge part of that is because of this system, because it has separated us from creation and moved us into technology, which means we devalue life, other life. We devalue how important creation really is and take it for granted. And I think let's talk about, what these people appear to be doing. They appear to be torturing children. They appear to be, whether it's really happening or not, it looks like, overwhelmingly from the evidence, they seem to be telling us that's what they're doing. So that was quite symbolic for me. And I think we all need to really start valuing nature so much more, so much more, because I tell you what, as soon as you value nature and you find it as fascinating as I do, you then become more in tune with your moral conscience. And I think as soon as you become in tune with nature and your moral conscience, you become in tune with the Creator. And as soon as you become in tune with the Creator, you lose all fear and you lose your anxiety, and you then hold that as your foundation, as moral conscience. And then, of course, you don't have guilt, because if you really try and follow that narrow road of moral conscience to sin, let's call it sin or wrongdoing or whatever you want to call it, then of course you then can turn around and say, well, do you know what, I've done what I thought was best, and actually at every opportunity I've tried to do what was right every time, even though it might have affected me negatively, even though I might put myself at risk by doing what's right. I don't feel guilt in my mind, and I know that way I won't affect anybody else in my life. And if we'd have all done that, let's face it, if everybody in this world treated everybody how they always want to be treated all of the time, and they were rational all of the time, we wouldn't be in this situation, would we? We would not be in this situation. If we had rationality and moral conscience as the foundation, then we wouldn't be in this situation. And now they have come far from it. They have come far, far from it. Oh, somebody said I haven't got 115 on mine. Okay, it's in the it's not within the normal table. It's on a corner of the driving license. But yeah, you might not have it. I don't know if everybody have it. If everyone has it. Yeah, go and verify. Just type in what does 115 mean on your driving license and you'll see. Oh, someone's got it removed. To be honest with you, I think these takes away the karma. I think they'd still do it anyway. I think we've got such a problem with addiction and this criminal network. I don't think you can trust the medical services at all. I'm sorry to say that. I'm sorry to say that. I think they were set up specifically. Can respect always, if they are very corrupt, what do we do about the paperwork if anyone is corrupt? Gary, with respect always, what do we do? We need to make citizens arrest. And you need to retain the paperwork, keep it. Eventually what will happen, okay, this is a hearts and minds battle between good and evil. I believe within everybody, even those people in there involved in this, I believe somewhere they're in there is a spark of moral conscience somewhere, but it's a case of getting that to come to the forefront. And I believe through this evidence, it's possible to get enough people to start doing the right thing that eventually there'll be nobody left doing the wrong thing, if that makes sense. And then that will compel a new system. But if nobody's going to actually start compelling that movement, then it's a non-starter, isn't it? It's all very well having the evidence and a strategy based on that evidence, but if people aren't going to follow that strategy, then it's all fruitless. And then I think you're gonna have to face what's good for most people. We need to be willing to put ourselves on the line a little bit and take a chance and potentially make a sacrifice for the sake of those that we appear to have all been complicit in some ways of causing the suffering of, whether we knew it or not. Someone's put, why aren't they making any new cemeteries? Yeah, I mean, that's what people have told me. I'm not aware whether they are or not, but a lot of people are saying, doing videos saying that there's no cemeteries being built. Someone's put they've got a 13 top left and a 12 bottom left on their driving license. Oh, thank you, Todra. Appreciate your comment. Thank you. Really appreciate your support. What about the Antichrist? Do they plan to reveal him? Well, look, I've had to think I've even had to think, am I the Antichrist somehow in all of this? That's literally the level of different angles I've had to come in and thinking, well no, how could I be what I'm calling for surely is a system of truth and transparency. But then I've thought, well, what if what they're doing, as in faking a tribulation, is creator, and then I'm trying creator is doing? Does that make me the anti? It's just like mind-boggling. It's just mind-boggling. Now, I hope that's not the case. I'm calling for a new system on earth of truth and transparency. I 100% believe in a creator. I believe in the foundation of Christianity. Would I call myself a Christian? No way. Because they have controlled all information. All information. So how can we trust what the name of the God is, or Jesus? How can we can't believe it, because they're behind the criminal network. Those that create the books and create the information. I'm not saying Christ didn't exist. There's a suggestion that Christ came down because he realized that those running the world, which were the Romans at that point, were actually going against what they were meant to be doing, and potentially involving the crimes against the children, and they thought they killed him on with what they're doing, or at least eventually merged back into the same habits that he was trying to get them away from. And this person says that it's actually misinformed Christians that are behind all of this. And that may very well be the case. I know Christians are massively involved in this. Did Jesus really die? A lot of people are suggesting he didn't, and that the bloodline has continued, and that there's somebody or people potentially here on Earth that are the bloodline of Christ. The movie The Da Vinci Code appears to be very... In fact, I've been told that that's relevant by somebody that is linked to the Freemasons. So they've been to Freemasons meetings, and they said, Gary, what the Da Vinci Code and the Da Vinci Code movies, what they're telling us is really important in everything that's going on. And that talks about the bloodline of Christ still being alive here today, and that there was a deception within Christianity. And that movie came out in 2006. And then the second movie in 2009. Chatham, remember we spoke about Chatham earlier. Chatham, where I was born, is very, very relevant in all of this. You've got the organisation called what's it called? The Royal Institute of Foreign Affairs. There's Chatham House in London. The reason it's called Chatham House is because William Pitt, who was involved in Chatham, okay, where I was born, it was named after him. And William Pitt is where it was named after, but he was a prime minister in the 1700s, I believe, in the UK. And apparently, and there is evidence to support this, or starting to support it, that the black nobility families are using that organisation to control the world governments through Chatham House, which means there's a connection to where I was born in Chatham, linking with the control of the world governments. Within there, you've got the Institute of Government, which is an organisation connected to the Royal Institute of the Foreign Affairs. That's what it's called, I think. And you've got Michael Heseltine, who is a former director of that. Michael Heseltine links to the removal of lead from paint in 1992 in the United Kingdom, which is the year that the Catholic Church became a legal entity, and that the Companies House Register started to become electronic. Well, the removal of lead means that you can't protect your homes from any radiation, potentially from the cell towers. Now, we know the cell towers is massively involved in this, but they allowed an exemption. And do you know what the exemption was? Grade 2 and 1 listed buildings. Who's living in grade 2 and grade 1 listed buildings, everybody? The people living on the estates that appear to be hunting the children. That's who, that are involved in the masterminding the criminal network against all of humanity. Could that be that they have been radiating humanity for a very long time? Well, it ties in with radar. Radar from World War I or World War II, I can't remember. Radar links to the cell towers. I've done the research, you find that Raytheon was involved. Raytheon is a weapons company that was involved in microwaves. First of all, the first microwaves were made commercially available in 1947, the same year that the Doomsday Clock began, possibly allowing the ability to put those microwaves in your home and see as a test how it affects people in their homes as part of a bigger plan moving forward in relation to the cell towers. Raytheon's massive. And then when you come in from the research of, what's his name? Cyril Smith, notoriously involved in crimes against children. A company called Ray Tech? Oh, I've forgotten what it's called. It's Ray something. I suspect, and I've found evidence because you come in through there, and what do you have? Radar company. When you go in through that radar company, what do you have? BT, mobile phone companies, loads and loads of them, all connecting to Cyril Smith, almost immediately via the research. All of the same companies I've been talking about have been suppressing all of humanity, poisoning them through the radiation, and it seems as though they're trying to protect themselves with their lead paint that they allowed an exemption for in their estate buildings. They're to use lead paint. Was involved in the microwave ovens, the first domestic one as well. They're also linked into the, as I've said, the cell towers directly, okay? And it links into the military. Military, microwaves, cell towers, all there, straight together, linking into international weapons companies. It's all there, it's in the evidence, all linking into the same companies I'm talking about. And now I've got this evidence of the estates appearing to be linking in with the fox hunting and the hunting of children and the crimes against the children. Just going to read some comments. My family farm in Wales, where I grew up, was ours since 1667. It got taken from us by force in 1988. It looks like fraud. The legal case was BP versus Buckler. I'm suing for reparations. Yeah, there is a suggestion. Someone even came on to my live. I'm going to screenshot that just in case that becomes relevant to what I'm doing. They came on my live the other day and they said, "We're not going to hurt you. We just want your land." And I'm thinking, okay, could be genuine that they're part of this. And he came on, and if he's telling the truth, then they're claiming they want their land. I mean, it's more than the land. It's more that they want to control everything about humanity, first of all, and they want to have the ability to physically harm people and psychologically harm people, according to all of the research. And they, in fact, want to, it seems, cause torture to many, many people, and particularly the children. It does seem as though they want to torture, and this seems to be a big part of all of this, torturing. Now, I could speculate and theorize why that may be. Could be several reasons. It's obviously completely wrong, and obviously, some people are going to say, well, they're not human. Some people are going to say, well, it's their belief and their cult, and there's going to be loads of potential reasons. Are they thinking rationally? Absolutely not. I think we can pretty much come to that conclusion. Is it because they're too affected by drugs? Could be. Are they too inbred? There's a massive connection to incest in all of this. Incestuous activity is massively linked in with the Cray twins and into this criminal network. And with incest comes mental issues, psychological issues. So that also could be a huge part of this. They're not thinking clearly. Actually, several factors. Can it continue? No, of course it can't continue. Does it have to change? 100%. Can it change? Yes, absolutely. It can change. There's enough innocent people still on this earth to be able to create a change. There may not be for much longer, potentially. Hi, Gary. Keep it up, bud. Put your name on my rap song about what you're doing, getting the truth out there. Keep it up, Gary. I'm praying. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. I'd rather get eaten by a pig than let them have any of my organs. I'm sorry to say, this is a real threat in all of this. It's just awful what's going on, and the Krays really triggered a lot of this. It seems they were given the role of really pushing this forward after the infiltration of the royal family. And in fact, I've found critical connections into international governments, but I've found some really good links into Australia over the last day or two, tying in with an Australian Prime Minister called What was his name? Holt, sorry. What was he, Harold Holt? Can't remember what his name was now. I've got it written down. He suddenly went missing at a key time. And this ties in with the research of the doomsday cult that I'd identified. More recently, you've had prime ministers such as Scott Morrison and Anthony Albanese, who's still the current prime minister, I believe. Massive evidence tying into both of them. And it seems as though Scott Morrison, thanks to somebody else that told me, was standing with Gerald McCann with red shoes on and Tony Podesta, which ties in with the crimes against the children. That was what I was going to say. I keep finding really important connections in all of this. So obviously a lot of you will know I've been talking about the shoes worn by Prince Harry at the time of Madeleine McCann's at the time of Jeffrey Epstein's arrest in July 2019, and the overwhelming evidence that I've got that says he was wearing the skin of Madeleine McCann in his shoes during that time. Well, today I did the research of when you search on the incorporation document for Harry's shoes, the company that links to the World Wide Web and ties into the skinning of the children and everything else, and into Portuguese Chamber of Consul and Lewis on the incorporation document. Earlier in 2025, there's an article that I've secured where Prince William comes out and says he's not going to use the normal solicitor that the royal family normally use, Harbottle and Lewis. He's going to use another solicitor. They normally use Harbottle and Lewis. Okay, now Harbottle and Lewis not only links to Harry's shoes, I suspect they realised what I was going to find out, and they needed to try and create separation between Prince William and that Harry's shoes document, that company. And that company was created within, I think it was 10 days after the World Trade Center disaster, and it changed its name to Harry's of London, or Harry's London, one or the other, 6 days after Madeleine McCann went missing. And you go in there, you've got JP Morgan Limited. JP Morgan Limited links to the Portuguese Chamber of Commerce, which links to Madeleine McCann's disappearance in Portugal. You then have the Italian Chamber of Commerce linked immediately next to it. Earthquake Italian companies linking in with Mazzini and the Albert Pike letter. There's actually a company called Mazzini and Garibaldi or something similar. Well, that refers to Mazzini, who was close to Garibaldi, who was in charge of the military for Italy, which ties in with the Albert Pike letter written in 1871, setting out the Three World War deception by Albert Pike to Mazzini. Now, what else was I going to say? Now, when you search Harbottle and Lewis, it also connects to the Children's Garden Party Limited. And guess where that is? Page 40 of the incorporation document of the Royal Foundation of the Prince and Princess of Wales, which is the company that links all areas of the fraud together. Harbottle and Lewis is also on linking in with the Israel attacks 2023, and I haven't got it in front of me, so I don't want to say it. I might be saying, but because what you can do in my document, you see, is cross-reference and see where it ties in from the other areas of research, and you can then form that pattern within the fraud and show they've used key companies through key topics, all right, to maintain that element of control, I suppose, through the criminal network. But by doing so, it's also exposed a pattern within the criminal network linking everything together. And Gerald McCann, I'm pretty sure he links almost immediately to Harbottle and Lewis as well. So, yeah, it's just mind-blowing. It's all there as well, through all linking in with the fraud. Where is the 115 on the driving license, Gary? Mine's on sort of the bottom, one of the bottom corners on the back of it. I can't remember which corner, but it's on one of the corners. What do you think the percentage of NHS workers was who took the jab? I have no idea. I think the jabs are a huge deception. I think it's all about the cell towers and the other technology. They may have laced vaccines to make it seem as though it was the vaccines, but you've got the likes of Andrew Bridgen and what's his name? Mark Sexton. What's the other guy's name? Steve Forsyth. John O'Looney, Undertaker, centralised to the criminal network. All of those that are talking about the vaccine situation or the mismanagement of the COVID situation, they're all compromised. None of them, some of them are linked to the main companies in the fraud. Okay, John O'Looney links straight to Companies Made Simple, which means it's a link to the paedophile information exchange and the World Trade Center disaster. Who else is Steve Forsyth? I think is his father. I'm not 100% sure. Died at a key time. His father into this. He's ex-military. Loads of military are going to be involved in this. Remember, the military was set up specifically because of this fraud. The police, all government organisations, the NHS, councils, they were all set up. It's quite obvious because of this criminal network around it to create this system. This is why they've got all citizens advice bureaus and all chambers of commerce are centralised to the criminal network. Well, citizen advice is the first place most people go to get legal advice. So if you start going there with any element of expose or potential risk of exposing their criminal network, they'll either shut you down, dissuade you from following it any further into the legal system, or they'll have your information. They can use that to get rid of people. Hey, Gary, keep going. God has a plan. Well, I think we have a moral conscience. We can't just keep waiting for the creator to intervene. What if this is the creator intervening through this evidence? What if the creator is channeling through me the evidence to give you the chance to do the right thing? That's what all of it appears. Let's face it, I shouldn't even have this evidence. I'm a man in a tent. There's nothing special about me whatsoever. I'm very insignificant, and yet I have the evidence to bring the entire world's systems to an end. Now, I think that's the creator doing that through me. All right, I can't explain it otherwise. When you look at the dreams I've had that's led to the evidence I've had, there's too much information, too many things going on here. Why is Elon Musk linked straight to me? Why does why have all of these people connected into my family straight away, practically straight away? Some of them immediately, as in, you go in through. So my brother-in-law, for example, links to the main Freemason lodge. His family, linked to the main Freemason lodge. On there, you've got the same managing agent, Stephen Owens, who was the managing agent for Exmoor Manor. He never told me that, my brother-in-law. Never told me that for years. I had no idea. And he knew all along. And you've got a weapons company right there on his family's incorporation. When you go into that weapons company, you hit loads of them. International weapons companies, BAE Systems, Thales. You very quickly, you hit, going in one or two companies away, you hit Airbus and Defence Limited. That links straight to Jeffrey Epstein in the research. Airbus links to Jeffrey Epstein via my research. Within there, you've got one director links to a satellite company, and that is where Elon Musk is. Right there. He was a former director for that company. It's not going to be a coincidence, everybody. So I think it's being channeled through me. Possibly. We have to consider that, because this evidence is irrefutable. It's verifiable. I believe it's the key to change everything. I know it's the key. You can't sit back and wait for the government, Donald Trump, or any of these other people that are massively implicated in this to come and do anything. The White Hats is all a farce. Okay, I've seen a White Hat company very quickly linked to Exmoor Manor. Donald Trump links multiple times to Exmoor Manor from multiple ways. And he links to the Doomsday Cult connected to Julian Assange via the research. God, if what Gary Waterman is saying is true, I prayed and got my answer. He is telling the truth. Look, you don't need to trust me. Thank you very much, but you don't need to trust me. All right, you don't have to like me. And most people probably don't like me, and I don't care. Get the document. If there's any doubts, get the document. Verify at least some of the information. Now, how you can quick and verify a massive section just straight away by going and do it. Can anyone in the comments, if you've got a secondary device, I'm going to talk you through to verify a forgery on a company now. Okay, and if you can just put yes, you've checked it on the comments, that would be great. So if you go on and type in Vistra Limited company's house on Google, Vistra, Vistra Limited, Limited, company house in Google, you'll see a list of items. It'll probably be the second, it might be the first one, might be the second one down. Click on it. You should see a Vistra Limited with when it was incorporated in 1965. Okay, so check on its overview, incorporated 1965. If you then, on that overview, go to the bottom, you'll see that it has Jordan and Sons Limited, and to the right of that, it has the dates between 1965 and 1996. So what they're telling you on that bottom of the overview is they are telling you that it only had that name between those dates. Okay, so this is what the government is telling the public. It only had Jordan and Sons Limited from 1965 to 1996. If you then go into the filing history tab, which is go towards the top of the screen a bit more, I know, and you might not be able to follow, so don't worry too much about putting that you've done it. I'm just going to explain it anyway. You'll see about 5 tabs going along. They might go down depending on if you're on your computer or a tablet or phone. Click on the filing history. If you tick the little box saying incorporation, or you scroll to the oldest document. It's up to you. You can either reduce it by ticking incorporation. Oh, brilliant. Somebody's done it. They've already done it previously, I presume. Thanks, Louise. She's confirmed that she's already verified. It's a great way just to verify what I'm telling you about. This is the main company in the fraud, okay, that they're using. Go into the filing history. You'll see the oldest document. You will see, oh, brilliant. Amal, brilliant. You're doing it. Great. Go to the oldest. I'll go through this again in a minute. So I'll just explain it now and then I'll explain it again. Go to the oldest document and it will say incorporation and it'll have a PDF button next to it. And open it up and you'll see a hidden name right in the middle of the first page, I think it is, or might be the second page, but I think it's the first page. Hammerplag Limited. Hammerplag Limited. Well, that's never been recorded on the overview. Not only has it never been recorded, they've lied and they've put that it only had Jordan and Sons Limited between those two dates, but it didn't. It had the name Hammerplag. And you Hammerplag, Hamiplag. It's interesting. Yeah, someone's put ham plague. That's interesting. I don't know what Hammerplag means. I did have a little look and I couldn't find anything obvious, but somebody might have. Gary, they've already changed it. Are you sure? Oh, you've emailed me about it last night. Interesting. Well, I've secured it in screenshots. If they have, then I'll check that because that's confirmation that they've then falsified it. I don't think they have changed it. It might be you're looking at another company, but if they have, I will check it, and I will. That's a great publication. The incorporated name is different to the current name, date, etc. Yes. So now, when you go down, when you look on, I'm just going to talk you through that again, so it's clear. So type in Vistra Limited, Company's House on Google. Go into the record, and it should be you're on an overview. If not, you'll have to go into the next one down. Hammerplag, it's in the first or second page on the incorporation document, and you'll see company name Hammerplag Limited, unless they've changed it like somebody has said. And then Hammerplag is still there. Yeah, there you go. So someone's just checked it. Vivian's checked it. It's still there. Now, I'll just go through this again, just in case some of you are still trying to find it. So, Vistra Limited, Company's House. Type that in. Go into the overview. You'll see the main name, Vistra Limited, at the top with the green sections. Go down to the bottom. You'll see two names. You'll see Jordan's Limited, and underneath that, you'll see Jordan's and Sons Limited. Look to the right of it, and you'll see the dates from 1965 until 1996. No other names between those dates. That's what they're telling us. Go on to the filing history tab, which is towards the top of the overview. You'll see 5 or 6 tabs along or up, whichever, depending on what device you're on. Click on filing history. Click the little tab that says incorporation. I'm just going to get rid of somebody. Click on the little tab that says incorporation, or just scroll to the oldest document. So it'll be in 1965. Yeah, I've got rid of them. And go and click on the PDF. It's the oldest document in the filing history. Going right back. Click. It's either that one or the one above it. I can't remember. Click on PDF. Scroll. I think it's the first or second page. And in the middle, you'll see a name of Hammerplag Limited. Now, what does that mean? Well, it means, and when you look further down on that document, you'll see the date of that document is the 11th of the 11th, 1965. Well, what does 6 and 5 equal? 11. Okay, so you've got 11, 11, 11. Now, that is a biblically recognized number. Okay, it relates to scripturally, I believe. Okay, so because what you've got there is you've got, yeah, goodbye. Just going to get rid of that person. What they've done is you've got a slight delay from the dates because obviously they fill out the document, get it to the DVLA, the DVLA then all they have to do is transfer the information from that document. So there's a slight delay in the date. But what they've done is falsified the company name, put a fake company name, creating a criminal company. That's absolutely deliberate. Absolutely 100% deliberate. Now, they've done that with many, many companies. That's not the only one, but that's an example of it. Gary, they are burying my messages. Please see them all. So that's fraud. That's outright 100% government fraud straight away. You've got the mens rea and the actors rea is complete, which means the mental capacity to know what they were doing, because all they had to do was transfer the information across, and then the actus reus is the action of carrying out what they know is wrong. It's there. The document's attached. They've attached it. They falsified the record. That's our government. That's government fraud. But they've done that on a vast scale. But that company is very important, as I've said, because it is the main company in the fraud. They've changed the previous names part. Have they? Well, there you go. That's interesting if they have. So I've got it all screenshotted, so that's fine. What I'll do is that just proves it if they have. That proves it even more, doesn't it? All they've done is expose themselves again if they've changed it. Yeah, someone's put they can see Hammerplag. So what you're saying is, can someone else confirm that they put Hammerplag instead of Jordans and Sons? Because that's what they would have had to have done. Gary, do you think there is anyone on a higher level working on this? I doubt it. No, because they're all controlled by the system. Remember, all of the organizations have been set up around this fraud. Oh, here we go. Someone's put it there. Jordan's Limited. Yeah, 1965. Jordans and Sons Limited. They've falsified the register then. If that's what they've put now, I'm just going to screenshot that. They've changed it. Fraud. That's even more serious. That's interesting if they have. Okay, so what they're trying to do, if that's the case, and I'll verify that just to make sure they have. Thanks, Vivian. Then what they've done is they've falsified it again. So they're trying to get out of it. So they're panicking. And that's very serious fraud. Can I show you the outside of my tent? No, I can't. Why would I want to show you that? Goodbye. Yeah, I must insist you search Carroll, Maryland, home and news tabs. Also, 11 minutes Sky News video general companies' names were changed in company's house. Thank you. I'll screenshot that. Why should Gary? Exactly. I have to think, well, that's people trying to find where I am. So I'm not going to do that. 19 White Ladies Road, Hammerplag. Oh, let's get rid of that person. This is the trouble. There's so many people compromised by this. They just send people on. But it's a good sign. It's a good sign because it shows how worried they are. Why would they need to? Why do they need to try and criticise me if there's nothing going on? Thanks for that. I've screenshotted it, Shelley. Gary, do you think there is... someone's answered that. If you've got any questions, let me know. Gary, they're burying the messages. Yeah, I've seen that one, Shelley. You've sent me. I've seen that. Gary, I must insist you search. So I've screenshotted that, and then I'll do a little bit of research on it. Oh, why is it not letting me scroll down anymore? So I know there's a lot of people asking for the doc. I still haven't sent the new document. It's been secured with one person or a couple of people, but it's secured, put it that way. But I, just in case anything does happen to me, but I will be sending out. But I know I keep saying this, but I want to get it to the point where there's so much evidence in there, and I just keep finding stuff. And I think it's important I cover the drones, the hunting of the children. I've also covered some other key individuals in there. What else is it I've covered in there? Oh, I've done so many different topics. I've done a bit about Bragg. What was his first name? He's quite important in it. There's links back in with Margaret Thatcher. That's what I see. I'm trying to copy and paste it, but I can't get it up on the chat. No, that's fine. Okay, well, if that's the case, then that's what they're trying to do, is falsify all of the records again. They're trying to put it all straight, which means they know they're in serious trouble. That's the name they've changed it to. Okay, I think I've covered everything I wanted to tonight. Anything else I need to say? Look, one of the big things I must emphasise is if we're not careful, we are going to let's just say they're not going to do anything massive against humanity. There's a real danger that we are going to be desensitised, and we are going to accept an awful world to live in and crimes against children. We cannot accept the innocent of the suffering. If we do nothing about this, there's a danger at the very least that could happen. At the very least that could happen. We must not allow that continue. If we do nothing about this, what are they going to be thinking? They're going to be thinking, look, we're even telling them what we're doing, and they still won't do anything about it. Even if they're not setting up a judgment situation, even if they, even if a lot of this stuff is a deception, we still can't allow them to tell us that they're committing crimes against children and get away with it. We cannot allow it. It's a tree. It's not a door. It's a tree rubbing against another tree. Someone's put, why is there door creaking? It's not. It's two trees that are blowing in the wind. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Really appreciate it. Take care. Have a good evening. Sleep well, and you'll sleep better than I am, I'm sure, on this little airbed. But take care, everyone. All the best. Bye-bye. Bye.